if we could walk ourselves down the order of consequence before we made every decision, we'd probably make very different decisions. You know, like, why do people cheat on their spouses? Clearly they're not thinking about what's going to happen in a week. They're thinking about how they feel in that moment. I want the instant gratification feeling, and that's all I can think about.
Your mind goes, I want to keep this feeling.
100%.
Because like you get that good buzz and you're just like,
that's exactly
this is so great. It's so fun. I just want to keep this going.
Of course, at the beginning, that's very much how I was, because I'm like, this is not difficult. Just stop. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me.
That was her advice. And welcome back to the Fortitude podcast. We're your hosts, Micah and
Sarah.
And today we're going to talk about porn.
Ooh, taboo.
More specifically, we're going to talk about my journey with it, my struggles with it, addiction, and hopefully we're just going to have a very candid, vulnerable conversation in hopes that it can create some breakthrough and healing for somebody else.
Yep. I wrote a blog post about Micah and I deciding to wait until marriage after we didn't. And I offhandedly mentioned in that post that it allowed Micah's struggle with porn to kind of come into the light and for us to have conversation surrounding it. And I got so much feedback from people wanting to hear more about that specifically. People saying that my son struggles with this, I struggle with this, I'm in a group of men and we're all helping each other to overcome this. So this is something we've been really wanting to do. And so we're excited for this. Well, I'm excited for this conversation. I think you are too.
Yeah, I am.
Are you nervous?
No, actually, I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with. Actually, I know a lot of people struggle with. And this is the problem with this subject in particular, is because it's not talked about enough, because there's so much shame surrounding this addiction in particular, where it just gets held in. But then things that are not brought to the light grow. And then the shame also grows. Yeah. And then the shame turns into justification of why you're doing it. Oh, it's not that, like, well, it's not worse than cheating, or, you go through these things. And so my hope is that somebody is going to hear this or watch this that can hopefully create some healing or maybe even jumpstart that process for somebody. Yeah.
It is interesting how it's like we are so celebratory of people who are maybe like they've been sober for a year, they've been off drugs for 2 years or whatever. But when it comes to like breaking away from a porn habit, it's like, well, if someone was like, I haven't done porn in a year, it's like, ugh, why are you telling me that?
Yeah. There is just like a different feeling with that. Whereas somebody says, like, I haven't touched a drink in a year.
Yeah.
And
you're like, congrats.
It's like, congrats. And we're cheering them on. Yeah. Or, you're with somebody who it's like, yeah, this is my new girlfriend. And, she hasn't touched a drink in over a year. And so she's a year sober, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And they'll do things to help you in that. It's a different feeling to say like, hey, this is my new boyfriend. He's 6 months out, porn free. And so, and now some circles, maybe it is celebrated and like, encouraged.
But the thing is like,
a little bit
no one would say that.
Right.
No one would say that because it's like, that's embarrassing. Why am I going to tell my friends that this is something that this person I'm dating is struggling with? Yeah. Like people don't say that because of the innate shame that comes along with it.
So I want to start with a statistic that was like studies have shown, and this is just in Christian men, Christian men and women. And it's 63% of Christian men watch porn monthly. I think it's 15% for Christian women. Now that's just, in the Christian community, that probably is a much larger number. Just in general. Yeah. If that's the case in Christian men or, Christian women, then that is very common. Yeah. That it's a very common stigma. And especially I think as people of faith, there's even more shame that's put onto it.
100%.
Where you are definitely like, hey, this is not godly. This is sinful. Yeah. Like you're, all the things that shame kind of gets put on, just with religion in general.
It really keeps it in the dark even more, because it's like, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm not supposed to like fall prey to these things. Yes. And then you never tell anyone, and then you struggle in silence. Yeah.
Yeah. It's this feeling that, well, now that I'm a Christian, I now
just pray it
should
away.
Be perfect. Pray it away. just pray it away. Yeah. And look, I've tried the whole, like, Lord, I pray that you would get, like, you know, that you would just get rid of my lust for any other woman other than my wife or my girlfriend, you know, and then he just answered that prayer. And now I like literally never have to think about a woman any other way. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. I haven't met somebody that happened to. It's just like, and then my lust just like got taken out and I never like struggled with it again. I think it's just something, I think you go through bouts. At least this is my experience. I'm just going to talk on my experience. Yeah. You know, I can't talk for all men or all women in this category, but for me, like there would be bouts of where it would be like months, maybe even a year or more, where I wouldn't, you know, struggle with it or, you know, fall to it. And it was a feeling of like, oh, I think I really like mastered this or conquered this. Mm-hmm. And that is a very dangerous thing. I heard Pastor Greg Groeschel talk about this, how you're vulnerable when you are overly confident. I think that's true in a lot of areas, but in this, where when you feel like you've just like conquered it or mastered it, that's when the enemy can come in and you know, get you at when you're least expecting it. Sure. And so be very careful of that. Just realize that this is going to be something that you have to work on. And for me, it wasn't this like, I'm just a hornball kind of thing. It wasn't like an overly sexual or sexualized thing for me. It was more so where I was in moments of feeling purposelessness or meaningless or powerlessness. And it was in those moments where I feel like I'm the most susceptible or vulnerable to it. Because it gives you that dopamine hit. And it's just like anything. I mean, it's like overeating, you know, just like indulging in dessert or, you know, alcohol, drugs, you know, like any addiction that it is, it's to cope and escape. And it's just a really high potency dopamine hit that happens quickly. Sure. Yeah. I mean, just quickly-ish. Speaking on ish, you know, it's all relative how quick that is, but
what makes it happen the first time?
I think that varies for everybody, because I know that for people that are really addicted to it, that is just like, it's kind of like chains that need to be broken. Yeah. They were exposed to it at a very young age. Sure. And I was just like thinking back at the first time that I had ever seen it or experienced porn. Yeah. I wasn't like crazy young. I think it was probably middle school or high school. I mean, is that young? I don't know. I feel like nowadays.
I feel like that is young, but
yeah, I guess. I
mean, middle school definitely seems young to me, but I feel like today I heard that
maybe it was high school.
Today I heard that the age is like 8 or 9.
Oh man.
That kids are like exposed to maybe not porn, but something that's like sexually overt.
I mean, nowadays that doesn't even surprise me. Right. But, you know, back in the day, you had to kind of work for it a little bit more.
For sure. Now it's just there.
Like I grew up on dial-up internet. Right. Same. The parents had to be asleep or gone because it would take quite a while for an image to even upload.
It's also like,
where it's like now we have it literally in our hands.
I don't even think you had. I mean, I'm speaking for me, but I never even had the thought to look up anything inappropriate online. As like when I was young, that never even crossed my mind.
Right. I didn't either. And I was like really trying to rack my brain as to like why that started. I can't figure out what the trigger is. Sure. Or what started kind of that fascination. Yeah. I mean, it was probably just watching a movie at a friend's house and like seeing a pair of boobs for the first time or something. And then that just like that feeling of like, of excitement and arousal and intrigue, also partnered with I shouldn't be seeing this. Sure. Which is a lot of feelings to happen, you know, when you're kind of going through, you know, the hormones and the prepubescent or, you know, stages that kind of started. And I think it's funny. You think that, once I get engaged or once I get married, sure, you know, then I'll give it up. Sure. You know, cause I'll have my person. Sure. And then you know, I won't need this anymore. Sure. Because then I won't have to,
cause then I'll like
Yeah, then I'll have my
it
person
whenever
that
I
will
want.
fill all my needs all the time.
Totally.
At all, at every waking moment.
Yeah.
When that didn't happen, got engaged, got married.
But it was before we ever got engaged that like this all came out and that I knew that you were struggling with this.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Because you caught me. You can tell that story.
Yeah.
Well, do you even remember?
I feel like we were trying to order food, I think.
Yeah.
I just got out your phone, opened up the browser to order some food, and there it was.
Smack dab.
Yeah.
Right in a browser.
Yeah. And I'm
like, that is such a newbie thing to do. Like you always clear a browser, you always exit out. Like what, Micah? But in my opinion, I think it was God ordained. I mean, I just think like that was meant to happen so that that could start the change that I need to go through and the process that I had to go through. To start to like break through that.
I feel like when you see your person right in front of you being really hurt, then that creates a different kind of urgency to want to bring it into the light and work on it.
Yep.
Because I was so hurt.
Right.
Especially because you had been like, I don't want to do anything sexual. Like we were abstaining.
Right.
And so I was like,
I was going to say, you should give the context probably
we
to that even more.
We weren't doing anything physical. We were abstaining from everything because Micah had said that's what he wanted to do so that we could build our emotional intimacy and see what our relationship could be without that as a crutch. So then I'm like, what's this then? Mm-hmm. You said you wanted to abstain, but you're doing this behind my back. Like I was angry and very hurt.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
It was like totally justified. And that crushed me because it had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with my own insecurities, my own just urges and, again, the coping mechanisms that I needed to work through. And it had nothing to do with you. And so, I think that it just brought very clearly in a visceral, tangible way of how much that affected you and hurt you.
I think as a partner, it's impossible to separate it from you.
Oh, I can imagine.
I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
And also at that time, I was having a lot of struggles with my own self-image anyway. That also added to my own realization of need to build up my own self-image and unattach it from how I looked and like being sexually attractive. So it was a perfect storm that was horrible at the time, but it allowed us to get on a much healthier path.
Thanks to counseling.
Yes.
It just like, it could not have happened with our own will.
No way.
Power.
No way.
Like that's why I think a huge part of starting the process of like wanting to work through this and stopping is to tell somebody that you trust. Yeah. Somebody that you feel safe with. Because here's the thing, and for us that was it was our counselor. Yeah. For me, it was our counselor. And so it was relatively easy for me because I was already unearthing a lot of stuff that I wanted to work through anyway. Yeah. And so this was just another thing that I'm like, okay, I want to get over this. I want to heal from this and break through this so that I don't want to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point of what a counselor does, you know, is to hear kind of all your dirty laundry and hope and try to help clean it. And so that was my source. And then I think from that point, it's important to find really trusted friends, people that you trust, feel safe with again, to share with, because more than likely they're going to reciprocate, at least in my experience. And if they don't, they're lying. I've yet to meet a guy that has not struggled in this area at some capacity. Yeah. Obviously some more than others, but at some capacity, this is an innate thing. I don't believe it just goes away either. I don't think that's a thing that happens. Yeah. It's something that you can manage and learn how to fill the void or fill the or heal the wound that you've had that is causing this repeat thing. Mm-hmm. And so
I think that's with anything that's like fleshly. Like it's not just
Right.
lust, you know, it's the other vices that we have here, the other things that we fall prey to, even like laziness or, you know, whatever it may be. I think there's
alcohol.
as humans, those things never disappear completely. It's always something that we have to be in check with if we have a struggle with one of those things, which we all have a struggle with something because we're human.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have two kind of adjacent questions based on what you just shared.
Okay.
One, is there something that, and obviously this is probably different for everyone, but for you, is there like a trigger where it's like, okay, this is reminding me of when I went down the path that led me to wanting to use porn?
Yeah.
Do you have those things where it's like, okay, I got to get this in check now before I walk too far down that path?
That's what I would recommend anybody doing, like another process of figuring out when you're the most vulnerable. Like, what are your triggers? And make those triggers as inconvenient as you can. So for me, it's when my energy is low, like when I'm tired, obviously if I'm home alone, when I am feeling like when I'm in a season of stagnation or it feels like I'm in a season of stagnation,
but that's like
I'm not getting results in areas or in my business or growing at the capacity.
But that's something you can't control. So how do you make that inconvenient? Like, I think making the habit getting onto the porn. I think that's what I mean. Yeah.
So you can't, okay. So the trigger itself, I guess you can't necessarily like stop it, but you have to, it's taking your thoughts captive and figuring out and noticing, oh, I'm in this state right now. And so what are things that I need to do to create a different state, whether it's working out, whether it's breath work, going on a walk, getting out of your house, because if you stick around, you know, there in your home alone, you know, if you're out of the house, you're less likely to probably do it in public.
Sure. Yeah, theoretically.
And so that's what I mean about like making it as inconvenient as possible is like you removing that. So in other ways is there are literal software tools that you can utilize to put on your computer, your tablet, your phone, that has kind of a buddy system where if you just put in somebody else's email. So I use my counselor. You can use a pastor, you can use your friend, whoever you feel like would help you hold you accountable. And what happens is if you go to a site that's flagged, or if you go to a bad site, or if you're watching images, it will send an email to that person and like let them know basically. And then that person can check in and be like, hey, you okay? Like, you know, how's everything? Got an alert. And so it brings a whole nother accountability to it. So I have it on all my devices for that. That's another way that you can make it inconvenient. And
or you just don't want to because you don't want to get the text from that person being like, what's up? I
mean, there's a lot of different ways. So for me, I like to play mental games of knowing knowing how I'm going to feel afterwards.
Right.
It's like eating a bunch of junk food or, you know, doing anything of that nature.
I literally just wrote this week about instant gratification on my blog.
Yeah, exactly.
And how like, if we could walk ourselves down the path of like the order of consequence before we made every decision, we'd probably make very different decisions because we wouldn't be thinking about how we're going to feel in 10 minutes. We'd be thinking about how we're going to feel in 20 or
nice. Put that number up a little bit more.
Or tomorrow or the next week or whatever. You know, like, why do people cheat on their spouses? Clearly they're not thinking about what's going to happen in a week. They're thinking about how they feel in that moment. Or even with having too much to drink, doing drugs, whatever it may be. It's because it's just like, I want the instant gratification feeling, and that's all I can think about because I'm a human and I'm being controlled by my emotions right now.
Thanks for saying 20 minutes. Appreciate that.
I don't know.
You don't have a timer.
It's like a long time.
Yes. It's like, it's playing those games with yourself of like, okay, I don't want the enemy to win. That's the other thing that I do. It's just like, this is the enemy. He knows what you're the most insecure about. He knows what you're the most vulnerable about. Like, you know, when you're the most vulnerable, and you just have to like, you either let the enemy win or you don't.
Yeah.
And you defeat him in that moment. And it's just like little wins like that. It's
moment
just
by
like
moment.
Little moments by moments of like, not today, Satan, you know, you hear that?
Yeah.
And you move on. You have to, and then you do it like, you have to like activate in something else.
Yeah.
You can't just like be like, not going to do that. And then you sit
around.
It's like, you have to activate in something that you're pursuing or, you know, working out or doing something that you're like accomplishing something.
Yeah, even just going for a walk seems like a very simple one.
It is
where it's
simple.
like if you can't think of something to do, just go for a walk
or call your buddy.
Yeah,
you just need kind of like that distraction.
Yeah,
you just kind of need a distraction from that.
Yeah,
to kind of get you on a different neural pathway.
Yeah,
to get off of that, because it's like it starts with something very simple.
Yeah,
and it's typically. I mean, well, for me, and I think for a lot of people now, is social media. You scroll and there's going to be some thirst trap at some point, or there's going to be something that is going to like tantalize. Ooh, wow, tantalize. It's not a good word.
No, that's a great word. I just don't like it. That's the perfect word.
Yeah. Tantalize and titilize.
It's titillate.
Oh, titillate.
I really don't like that word.
It's not titillate and tantalize?
Yes.
Wait, titillate. Oh, it's not titilize and tantalate.
No. No, it's not.
Okay, so
vocabulary lesson.
Yeah, so those two words. It starts with something as simple as that, and it starts very small, and then if you stay on it, then your thoughts start to go down a path of what would it be like to be with this person, and then it's like, and then you have to stop the spiral, or stop the thoughts from kind of taking you in that direction.
Yeah.
And in social media, I don't know if you know this, I learned this from my counselor, is that on TikTok, if you hold down the video itself, you can just hit not interested. It will take it away, and then it will, move on from the feed. And if you do that enough times, it will stop sending you those things.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a good way to do it. And again, that requires some strength in that moment, to not watch it and to not just like sit there and let your thoughts run rampant. You have to cut it off as soon as you can. It's easier to do it earlier than it is to do it later on, because once your thoughts kind of go down that path of imagining, it becomes harder to stop. So you have to stop yourself before you kind of start to make that groove in your brain. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as you possibly can, so that you don't even allow yourself to start.
Just walk down that path, or build that thought pattern.
But it's a different word, and it's not titillate or tantalize.
Or tantalize. Or tantalate.
Tantalate or titilize. And so that's on TikTok. On Instagram, you hit the 3 dots and you hit not interested.
Well, you can literally on your For You page. I do this all the time because I don't understand.
Like the discover page.
The discover page. You can like hold down on a square and be like, don't show me more like this.
Yep.
Because I don't know how some stuff gets onto my For You page.
Yeah.
And so that's an easy thing to do.
So those are just simple ways that you can start to just help yourself out. You want to help yourself out. And if you're going through a season right now where it's not that difficult, that's great. But like, prepare for the future. Why not do something now to prepare for something that could happen later on? Sure.
As someone who, I think, because like, this is not a struggle for me.
Right.
This is not something I've ever struggled with. It's very difficult for me to relate to what you're saying. Because and I think I'm saying this because I think if you're supporting someone who's maybe struggling with it, being like, you can't go into a judgmental place with your thoughts and with the way that you respond to this person, because it's not helpful. And I, of course, at the beginning, that's very much how I was, because I'm like, this is not difficult. Just stop. Like, what? I don't understand. It makes no sense to me.
That was her advice.
Because to me, it's just like, again, I don't struggle with that.
It's the same with everything, though.
Right.
Like, you can say
100%.
that for people that struggle with meth and heroin and,
of course.
And, things that you're just like, why just stop like doing that? Why would you do that?
Right. My point is if you are trying to be, if you like, say your partner is struggling with it, or a friend or whoever it is, like, don't be judgmental. Just even if you start to have judgmental thoughts in your head, like take those thoughts captive and figure out how you can say something back that's encouraging and doesn't make them feel worse than they probably already feel.
Yep.
You know, they probably already feel like crap about themselves, and having the person who they want to be transparent and honest with make them feel even worse is not gonna help anything. And that's just from my own, because even now in what you were just talking about, I'm like, just stop. Like I still have the, like, my initial thought is just like, I don't get this, but that doesn't get you anywhere. When you're trying to support someone, it's not helpful in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So that's just from my own experience.
If somebody has the bravery to tell you
100%.
and unearth this thing,
yes,
and it doesn't even have to be about porn. It can be about anything.
Yeah.
Anything that's a really vulnerable thing to do. A, that means they trust you.
Yeah.
B, it means, especially if it's a spouse to spouse, it means they love you so much that they want to work through this thing. If your spouse comes to you and shares this thing, you're going to be angry.
Yeah.
You're going to be insecure.
Yeah.
You're going to feel defensive. You're going to feel all these things that Sarah kind of shared with you. It's all valid. Like those are all totally valid things to experience, like to have any emotions. But on the other side, I'm not saying like to not feel those, because like those are very valid emotions. But the other side is try to have some, or on the other side, just think about how much this person loves you enough to share this really vulnerable insecurity with you. And it's because they want to work through this, because they want to grow in their intimacy with you, because that's ultimately what it is. It's like you're trying to get in an emotional or an intimacy need met from this thing that's never going to give you that.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of viewing the guy as like this weak pervert, that has no self-control, think about like, no, this person is a warrior. This guy's a warrior that has a wound that he's looking to heal.
Is actually strong enough to want to heal it and to bring it out into light. That takes a lot of strength.
Yep.
Even if in the moment it feels like they're expressing a weakness, but the fact that they're expressing it, it's more indicative of their strength than their weakness.
Right.
You've already given some really good tangibles as far as, bringing it into light, having accountability, the software you can install onto your devices. But you mentioned something, and obviously this kind of comes through if you're working through it with a Christian lens, but you mentioned how using porn almost put up, how it impacted your spiritual life negatively, how it just like kind of put a block between you and God. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, my personal belief, I'm a Christian. And so the thing for me, like, part of it was with not doing it, or when I was like, when I'm in a feeling of weakness, I think about what it does to my relationship with God. Because I always feel afterwards further away from him, even though it's not like he's going away. I'm just putting up barriers, and I'm like muffling the sounds because I'm putting up those walls. It's all self-inflicted. And I think that's what shame does. Yeah. Shame kind of puts these barriers up where it's even hard for you to hear, what somebody else is saying. Absolutely. Let alone God. Yeah. And even like if they're speaking truth into you, if you have so much shame, I think it's Brene Brown that talks about the difference between guilt and shame, whereas guilt is like, I did something wrong, or I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. So for me personally, what helps me kind of stop myself is thinking about how this is going to affect my relationship with God. Sure. I'm like, okay, I really like where I'm at right now. And like with my relationship with God and the Spirit, and it's always growing. Yeah. But it's like in a relationship where it's like, why would you put up barriers if you're really looking to grow a relationship in a marriage? Even all of a sudden you're like, okay, tonight, I'm just going to sleep in here. or tonight I'm gonna sleep elsewhere, not even in the next room, because I know that happens like when you have a kid and stuff, like you know, you need some whatever.
Yeah, we're talking about it through the lens of your spiritual relationship, but obviously that creates a barrier with a partner. And if they don't know that you're struggling with it, then they don't understand why the barrier is being created. Maybe they sense there's some kind of something, but they don't know what it is.
Right.
You know, I can't necessarily say from experience because it came out pretty early on in our relationship, but it probably does the same thing for an earthly relationship, I would imagine.
Yep.
And I think that's like any vice that you can fall into. I mean, there was a time where I was like really using alcohol as like a way to change myself.
Interesting.
I guess. Like a way to make myself more fun, because I'm just an introverted person.
You're
naturally
fun.
I'm fun. Yeah, I'm
You're
fun now.
Gooftastic.
I'm fun now.
Wait, why do you say now?
Because now my self-image is strong. Now I know who I am, and I can be fun and I can be myself.
Yeah.
With nothing to prompt me to do that.
I remember when we met and it's like almost you had a hard time being goofy.
Yeah.
Or like,
because I didn't want to look
silly.
stupid.
Oh,
I was afraid of looking stupid because I cared so much about what everyone thought of me because my self-image was so trash.
Were you told that in the past? Like if you like, did something start that process where like you did something silly or goofy and somebody kind of like made a remark that made you feel like they thought you were stupid?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Like I don't have like this is the moment. I have no idea where that came from. I think it just came from compounding perfectionistic tendencies my whole life. And then it's like, oh, well, now I'm becoming an adult. So how do you become how are you perfect if you're an adult? You're not goofy.
Interesting.
You're like all together. You have it all together all the time. You're the right amount of fun, but you also have it all together all the time. Now we're like onto a whole other subject.
No, but it's good. I mean, because I loved that part of you whenever it did come out, and lo and behold, God gave you the probably the goofiest man on earth to maybe bring that side out of you, and also to temper me and make and kind of speed up my maturity process as well. Yeah, because I had a lot of immaturity and that you brought more organization as well to my life.
Sure.
I think I brought out the goof-tasticness of yourself.
You did. Do you know in the movie Inside Out where she has like Goof Island that like turns black into crust and falls away? Yes. That's like when I saw that movie, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like that happened to me.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know why. But then you came into my life, and then my Goof Island was built back up again and all colorful.
I built your Goof Island.
I don't even remember if that's what it was called.
I don't. Maybe it was. Man, I need to watch that again. That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
Is it Silly Island?
Maybe.
Or Goof? I don't know. Something along those lines.
I like Goof Island. But if that's wrong,
too.
Why I even brought all of that up is because when I would use alcohol as a coping mechanism, it would definitely put up a wall between me and God. Because when I should have been...
Put up a wall between us.
Well, yeah, for sure. Again, just like anything.
Yeah. Because
when I should have been leaning into why do I feel insecure and like talking to God about those things, I would just go out and drink instead of actually working on like why I felt the way that I felt. And it's just, whatever. American college is what it is. And it's like normal to just like get drunk all the time.
Right.
Whether that's healthy or not is another thing. But that starts a pattern that then it's like, well, now I'm an adult, but I'm still doing that. And in college, I did it because it was a way for me to have fun going out because I don't like big parties.
Right.
I don't like to do that.
It like took away your, ambitions. That's probably not the right word, but like inhibitions. Yeah. It took away your inhibitions some more, and because that's what alcohol does.
Right.
It's just like your care level goes down.
Yep. It made me who I felt like I was supposed to be. Because I felt for the longest time, because I didn't understand my temperament, I felt like there was something wrong with me because I didn't like big party environments. And I didn't like to socialize the way a lot of people that I was surrounded by, who that's actually how they're wired. It made sense for them. But for me, it wasn't who I was, but I felt like there was something wrong. And so I used alcohol to fix that thing that was wrong.
In college. And then it kind of bled into adulthood.
Yes.
Can you talk about the time where that became an issue? Because from what I remember, we had a lot of kind of hard conversations around that subject because,
just because
I was like, you turn into a different person.
Right, exactly.
And
like really mean, just not like fun.
Mean.
Yeah.
Which is funny because you were doing it because you wanted it to bring out your fun side or goof side.
But that's the thing. That's the thing with alcohol is like when you have the amount that makes you fun, your body's like, or your mind is like, you need more. And then that takes you to the next threshold, which is not fun anymore.
Or what it like, your mind goes, I want to keep this feeling.
100%.
Because like, oh, I love, like you get that good buzz and you're just like,
that's exactly
this is so great. It's so fun. I just want to keep this going.
Yes.
So I don't want to drink water.
Right.
And hydrate myself. No, I want to drink more alcohol so that I just keep this going, which doesn't happen.
Right.
It just continues to go upward into no man's land.
Yeah. That's kind of what you were saying about porn in regards to like you get one dopamine hit and then you're like, well, now I need the next most interesting thing to get my next dopamine hit. And it's just like more and more and more and more.
Yeah. That's kind of also the danger behind it too, is because you do it once and that you hit that dopamine threshold, but then you need to, you don't go back to base of dopamine. It kind of lowers. So you need more stimuli to hit that dopamine that you hit the first time. And if you do it in succession, if you do it a lot, that continues to lower your baseline. Your dopamine baseline lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers, where then you need more stimuli and then you start to get into different things and maybe like more violent things. And it gets really bad if you go down that road too far because your dopamine, like you have depleted it so much that you need such aggressive stimuli to actually hit that dopamine.
Sure.
And then that bleeds into partnership as well. We're with like performance issues because you're comparing like the activity of real life to what you've been watching.
Sure.
And, Sarah didn't want to hang upside down and put on a Batman mask, no matter how much I asked.
That sounds exhausting.
I guess that would be Spider-Man more so. That would hang upside down.
Oh, I'm like, what does it matter?
Yeah, the Spider-Man kiss. Hang upside down.
Okay.
But I was thinking like bat hangs upside down.
Yeah. Either one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We can talk about that after. But so alcohol.
Yes.
I want to stay on that because there is. I want you to kind of tell that story of how we had some conversations and then what you did to kind of break that pattern.
Yeah. I mean, we just had conversations that were uncomfortable and awkward. And then again, common theme here, talk to my counselor about it. Was like, okay, this is something I clearly need to bring up because I'm having an issue with it. And now that I'm like more removed from it, I don't think I have. Because, some people like say they have like an addictive personality or it's easy for them to become addicted to certain things. And it's not that I was addicted because, I cut out alcohol for a time, but like I'm not alcohol free right now.
Right.
Like I have a drink here and there, but the building up of my self-image allowed me to not have the addictive tendencies with alcohol that I had before.
Right.
Which is, I don't know if that's a common thing or if that's just a me thing, but I cut it out during the time when I was really working aggressively on my self-image so that when I had, even when we would be like people like at the apartment drinking, like, and I wouldn't have a drink and it would lend me to not really want to be involved in what was going on and not even in a negative way, just in like okay, I'm going to actually take this moment to go and like journal or just do something that that's productive for me for what I need right now. Again, bringing it into the light, having a conversation with a counselor who could help equip me with tools to help equip me with ways to break that habit. And also, again, like not like me, help me realize that I'm just a normal human and that I'm not garbage for struggling with what I'm struggling with.
It's never easy to hear like somebody being like, hey, like when you do this, this, and this, it like you get really mean, like in blah, blah, blah. And that's like, you know, that your self-image takes a hit or your character takes a hit.
Yeah.
And that's like any time you feel your character is getting attacked, that is not easy to hear. No. But I applaud you for, you know, for taking it and actually going and wanting to look into that and make a change, because having that conversation a few times, and it was just like something that was, I didn't look forward to saying it either, but I also really wanted, I like, this was just a little bit of a riff in a relationship. And when you and your partner are both wanting, like you both really desire to be better and grow, it does make these conversations a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, hey, I can't remember exactly what I said, but something along the lines of like, hey, so, you know, like when you drink, you become a different person. I don't like, and I know this isn't going to be easy to hear. I'm sorry. I want you to know this is kind of how this is and
well, you were
how it makes me feel.
Right. You were just like, this is an issue for me, and this will continue. If it doesn't change, it's going to be an issue in our marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that
so
was pretty much what it said.
Yeah. Which is like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I 100%. Right. And I don't even think we were married yet at the time, but we were engaged. So it was moving in that direction. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I don't want to, any selfish habits, self-destructive, selfish habits I have, I want to break those, as many as I can before I go into marriage. Because marriage is a huge revealer of like all your selfish tendencies. And so I wanted to get rid of as many of those as I could prior. But again, it just went hand in hand with me repairing my self-image from the ground up and uprooting, having to go through the journey of realizing, why do I drink to excess in certain situations? Oh, it's because I'm trying to change who I am, because I'm not comfortable with who I am in certain situations. And so then getting to the root of that, realizing that, healing that, then it's like, okay, now I can have a singular glass of wine and be totally satisfied with the evening.
What did you do? Like, is there any tangible things that you can talk about, like that you did to kind of heal / break that kind of habit for somebody that may be going through something similar? I
mean, counseling for sure. Having accountability with a counselor.
Like, did you say like, I'm going a certain amount of days without drinking or anything, or?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think I like also told you that I wasn't going to drink. I don't think I had a set plan in place. I was just like, I'm going to do this until I feel healthy. Basically. Originally, I kind of had the intention to like cut it out completely forever. But then I realized that I was like, oh, it's not that I'm addicted to it. It's that my self-image is so broken that I needed it to change myself.
Right.
And so once I healed that, I could have a healthy relationship with alcohol. Yeah,
the dynamic it has shifted. Like your relationship, where you don't need it in order to cope with
being in a social setting.
Right. Or yes, right. Or changing yourself so that you can actually be comfortable.
Yes.
Or escaping from your career or job that you hate, and then you come back for work and you have a few drinks so that you can numb yourself.
Right.
You know, that's probably different, but you did the same thing with cursing. So you guys don't know this, Sarah, and I hardly even remember this, Sarah, but when we met, she swore like a sailor.
I did.
The F-bomb.
I did.
Every other word. Not every other word, but like every other sentence.
A lot.
Was just like, it was a part of your vernacular.
Yeah.
Did we have a conversation that made you, or did I ever? No? Because I could have sworn I was just like, you know, that like swearing, like when you swear so much, it dampens your intelligence.
I don't know that you ever said that to me.
No, but I think I said it in general to maybe like nudge. And
I think you made a few offhand comments. It's not like
because you're so well spoken and it's seriously so hard to even remember that.
It's difficult for
it
me
was
because
to the point where like she was coming over for Thanksgiving to meet the fam for the first time, and I was just like, babe, like try your hardest not to swear because
I don't even think you said that to me.
My family or parents, like they like nobody really swears at all in my family. And your parents don't really swear at all either.
They don't.
That's what's crazy.
They don't.
Is like, it's not like you got it from your parents, but
no.
I think it was your association in college,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, so it was just at that point where I'm just like please don't like have the F-bomb, like as we're praying around Thanksgiving.
As we're praying on Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's funny because I like can't even, it's difficult for me to say the F word now. I don't think I ever. The only reason I ever say the F word is if I'm quoting something and it really needs to be said for effect.
Sure.
Other than that, it doesn't ever even slip out of my mouth.
No.
Because I don't like it.
It's funny because we flip-flopped because I was somebody who all throughout high school, all throughout college, really, like I just like never swore.
Yeah.
And then association, then it kind of flip-flopped where it's like, oh, it's funny. Like in funny situations and comedic, it can be very funny. It can definitely
be funny when used effectively. Yes. I agree with that.
And I use that as an excuse, but just recently I watched a podcast on, it's Girls Gone Bible that was on George Janko's podcast, which is a fantastic podcast, by the way. And they were talking about cursing because he was a Christian who cursed, and that's who I kind of started becoming. And then they were just go watch it. I'm not going to say it as good as they are, but it really convicted me to not do that because I mean cursing is literally what it sounds like. I mean you're cursing things, you're cursing yourself, you're cursing, even if it is funny. I don't know. I got really convicted in that moment to like not curse anymore. And so I've been doing
I mean, you don't curse that much.
I don't, but it was to the point where I'm just like, why? Like, I don't really need to. Like, yeah. I'm kind of just doing it for fun.
I was I became the cursing police. I'm like, is it really necessary to use that word? Yes. I don't think so.
Yes, you did. You were. Well, what did you do to break that?
All I did,
you have to tell. I want you to share how you did that.
I just gave it up for 40 days.
Yeah, you did it for Lent.
Yeah, I did it for Lent. You know, the silly things that it's like, oh, I'm giving up chocolate. Like the things that literally don't matter. And it's totally like,
I think we might have done that.
It's not the point of giving something up. But I gave up cursing for 40 days. And it was very hard at the beginning, or I really had to think. But by the end of those 40 days, I had completely broken the habit, and I literally haven't cursed since.
I mean, that's awesome though. That's amazing. It kind of just goes to show where, oh no, it was the opposite. It was like how many people break a habit after committing. It was after 13 days?
13 days, yeah.
After 13 days.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know what the arbitrary number is when it comes to like instilling a habit. Some people say 30, some people say 60, some people say 90. It's like, it's somewhere in that range probably. But the fact that you went 40 days, it forced yourself to really think about the words that you're saying. Mm-hmm. I think more that we can be conscious of our words, the better. If we can think about if everything I'm saying comes true right now,
what I say,
how conscious would I be about the words that I'm speaking? Mm-hmm. Because inevitably that's what you're putting out there is whatever you're saying, whatever you're speaking is what you are attracting, is what you're headed towards. Yeah. And so if you're, if you continue to say, oh, I have so much anxiety. 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 You say that every single day, you bet your bottom, I was going to say bet your bottom butthole, but that, would that be considered
Speaking
swearing?
Of cursing.
You bet your bottom dollar, you're probably an anxious person.
Yeah.
And so it's just being very conscious of that when it comes to, I mean, everything. Anything. I think anything. When I really do think about that, it's the thing with, the compound effect, right? It's like where you eat, it's like, well, I eat a cheeseburger one time. Obviously, like I'm not going to die immediately. Or a donut one time, 2 times, 3, whatever. I'm not going to
17
diet.
times,
But
35
you
times.
eat a donut and a cheeseburger every single day.
Yeah.
And you're headed in an unhealthy,
bad direction.
probably lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing with your words, is that it doesn't happen immediately, but you're compounding that on your life and where you're headed. So,
and circling back to wrap up the whole thing.
oh, wow. Okay.
I think that can be a powerful tool if you're struggling with porn or any kind of vice, is speaking out loud.
Yeah.
Which I think people are so, even when they're alone, they feel foolish speaking aloud.
Yeah.
But it's so powerful when you speak aloud and rebuke your thoughts to help yourself take your thoughts captive. Yep. And I don't know if that's something you ever employed with porn, but that's something that I've employed a lot.
I definitely have. As silly as it sounds, but I'll say, like, not today, Satan.
Hey,
not today, devil. Not today, enemy.
Yeah.
Like, I, personal beliefs. Like, I have, like I have the strength of Jesus. I have the strength of God. I have the strength of, whatever that is, behind me, and it is more powerful than you. And it's just like, you have to do that. It does feel silly in the moment, and it may feel. We actually talked about this with Justin and Amanda in the last podcast. Which, if you haven't seen that one, man, that's a good episode.
Expertise,
not because of
right
us,
there.
because of them. They were just such wise people. They're our personal counselors and marriage counselors. And so, but it's because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah, it'll feel fake.
It's gonna feel fake in the beginning because it's unfamiliar. It's not what you're used to, but you do it enough times, you make a habit over
40 days in a row.
Going to create new grooves in your neural pathways, and it's going to become your new truth.
Yeah.
Porn,
alcohol, and swearing. The conversation took a turn.
Yeah, it really did. But I think it was good. I'm glad that you shared what you shared. It's any vice, any coping mechanism, any addictive thing. Overeating. I mean, just like there's a lot of different things that we use. And so I'm glad that we touched on that.
Yeah, me too.
So, that was, Missy Elliott. Where it's like, that was an accident.
That's good.
It was.
If you haven't yet, please subscribe. It really helps us out. It helps get the content in front of the people who we want to impact.
Yeah, and do us a favor. Please share this with somebody that needs to hear this. Our whole goal with this podcast this entire podcast is to make people feel less alone and talk about some pretty vulnerable things that a lot of people go through. So if you feel that somebody really needs to hear this, all we ask is for you to share. And as always, we like to end our podcast by saying goodbye. I think it was not our worst one.
It was definitely not the worst one.
No.
Probably one of the top 3.
I think so. Top 3. Okay, it made the top 3. Wow, good job. Peace out. A-Town.